Good morning. It's February 20th, and we'll call the Wright County Board to order, 9 a.m. Thank you all for being here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes from February 13th.
Mr. Chair, I do have one correction. It's on one of the first. Yeah, it's on the very first page. It's where it just says number 1, where I was adding it on. The sewage leak is in Maple Lake Township. The sewage plant is in Albion, I believe.
Right,
that's all pumped to, but it's actually Maple Lake Township.
So. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell, it's also on page 3 of 7 in bold print.
Oh, really? Well, let's correct that too then. On page 3 also, Susan? Okay, thank you. And then, Mr. Chair, I don't know, on page 2, Commissioner Vetch and I were talking about adding more lakes onto the regional inspection thing. I'm just wondering, would it read better if we put more lakes or just adding lakes? I guess it's probably okay, huh? All right, we'll let that one go.
Well, I don't know. What do you think?
That sounds fine.
Okay.
It sounds good.
We'll let the author make the decision.
Okay.
He knows how words go together.
Okay, sounds good. That was my only thing. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve unless there was somebody else had any corrections.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any further discussion regarding changes to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. The agenda. Does anybody have anything to add to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewson. Is there any further discussions regarding the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like to remove for further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Under Auditor Treasurer, the passport application fee.
Yep.
Under consent agenda, it says from $25 to $30, but on the sheet we have on it, it says $35.
That's consistent with the law.
Okay, so let's pull that. Let's pull that one for a little more discussion then.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda with the deletion of item D for further consideration.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Hewson to pull item D and accept the rest of the consent agenda. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
So what's,
Bob, I think that would be regarding you.
Before I apologize, I'm not aware of I know that there was a fee change coming. I don't have particulars of it. So if you want to continue, I'll email.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, it is.
Mr. Chair, I am aware of this. This is a $25 to $35 fee and read it on a few different things, so that's why it stuck out at me. It's just a typo is what it is.
It's just a typo.
Yeah.
And plus, I mean, it's nice to let the public know that if you're getting your passports,
Hurry up.
you need to get in because you can save $10, so
Mr.
by
Chair,
April 1st.
$10 is $10.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised wordage in the item D under consent agenda to reflect $25 to $35 instead of the typo that says 30.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewson. Is there any further discussion? So you're positive that it's gone to 35?
Being that my wife has her passport expired right now, yes. I'm trying to tell her, do it now before April 2nd, or the fee goes up.
April 1st.
April 1st.
Okay, any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item agenda. Mr. Bob Hevila.
Good morning, Board. I'm not apologizing that there was a conference last week, a very, very good conference. I tried to get this delayed for next week, but I saw that it did make it to the agenda. And it's going to take me more than 2 minutes to describe the difference between cash basis reporting and modified. So with your permission, I'd like to delay this for a week. I can answer some questions now for you, but it's going to take me more than 2 minutes to walk you through this.
Well, I didn't see the,
It isn't included in the package.
it wasn't.
No.
Okay, good, so then I'm
That's right,
I'm not seeing
You
things.
didn't receive physical hard copies?
No.
No, I didn't see it in
No.
the packet either regarding,
Well, with your permission, I'd like to delay this for a week.
that would be fine.
We don't even have to table it, just want to remove it from the agenda and move it,
Just table it.
table it. All right, then I'll make a motion to table it till next week's, what is that, the 27th? Yeah, board meeting.
Right, because I do want you to approve those guidelines, so.
Yep.
Motion by Commissioner Fetch, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Table it.
Table it.
Just take it off.
Take it off. All right.
Motion carries, opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Business Manager Shauna from the Sheriff's Office.
Good morning, Commissioners. Law enforcement is at its finest when it's got strong community partners. For most of the time, those partners for us are our Wright County citizens. But today we are here to donate or recognize a donation from one of our generous community partners, Central EMS Region. In accordance with their mission, Central EMS Region has donated 150 doses worth around $6,300 of Narcan, also known as naloxone, to Sheriff Hagerty's office for the benefit of all Wright County citizens. These doses will be distributed to our Wright County deputies after training in March. Narcan is used to combat the opioid epidemic. To simplify, Narcan blocks the opioids in someone's system from being absorbed by the brain, causing a withdrawal effect. Last year, Wright County lost 2 citizens to opioid overdose, and as recently as last week, we have a known save from being able to administer Narcan, which was carried by the ambulance that was on scene. As Wright County Sheriff's Office deputies are frequently first on scene, having access and authority to administer Narcan will create additional opportunities to save lives. On behalf of Sheriff Hagerty, I ask you to welcome Marianne Larson, Regional EMS Coordinator, to accept our appreciation for Central EMS Region's donations to the citizens of Wright County. Marianne. Thank you. We did want to present you with this. This is going to be an amazing opportunity for our county to serve its citizens and potentially increase the number of lives that we save.
Yes.
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Just give you a hand.
Sure, yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Commissioner Potter.
I think this is an opportunity for the media to do a picture to make more awareness of this, because let them know it is available. Any chance we get to get awareness of this. So I would like it if it could be a Kodiak moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have my 2 gentlemen in uniform that I brought just for such an occasion.
Why don't you do the presentation of the award again like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you have the deputies on either side of you?
Yeah. There you go.
French Lake contingent.
Dan?
Their captain's up there.
Well, why don't we get Dan in?
Come on, Dad, come on.
Yeah, go ahead, get in.
And Eric.
You're not gonna break the lens, not this time.
No, Eric, you can go in and
There you
Marion
go.
can get, yeah.
Yeah.
No, is that a good spot?
Podium?
Is that?
Very nice.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Move it around and work Photoshop it.
good.
There you go.
Can you do something for Dan?
No.
Put some hair on the front there maybe for him?
Yeah, that's
Always in
right.
the mood to experience Photoshop, so 1, 2, 3.
All that love that Dan is feeling right now.
That's what they call love, huh?
And Mr.
Thank you
Chair?
again.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'd also like to thank Marion for her hard work. I'm on the Central Minnesota EMS board, and she's out training, and she's a very busy person, and we're happy that we can give out these doses, because the good thing about the Narcan is it doesn't hurt you if you're not
Correct.
on an overdose. You haven't had an overdose.
Opiate, yeah, an
So,
opiate.
an opioid, yep. And so that's really the beauty, so it doesn't hurt to try it if you suspect that this person is having an overdose, so, yeah.
Correct.
Mr. Chair?
Anything that you wanted to add, Marion? about- or-
Oh, go ahead.
No. Mine was just gonna be a snarky joke about Commissioner Burrell's knee, when they took him off opioids for his knee replacement. He was having some withdrawals, and so he knows firsthand when you.
I feel
when you-
sorry for those druggies, I said that.
Yeah.
I had
He
knee
knows firsthand what
surgery.
taps when you have the withdrawals of that, and that was just knee surgery.
Yep.
How powerful that can be.
Yeah,
That's,
I couldn't do the work that I do, especially with this opioid project, without the Minnesota Department of Health. They're the ones who found the funding for us to be able to purchase naloxone, go out and train. The sheriff's office is pretty fortunate that they've got a lot of infrastructure in place to find a medical director and have a protocol. We have lots of agencies who need the extra help to find that, and so I'm able to help them with that. And you've got quite a few agencies within the Wright County area that carry naloxone, but the sheriff's office is definitely on scene first and covers the whole county. So it's a benefit to have a regional approach to this, so that the county doesn't have to, each county doesn't have to work independently with MDH to find funding.
right, yeah, and I mean, that's a huge dollar amount, really. I mean, $6,300 is a wonderful gift, so thank you.
So thank you so much. Yes.
What is the shelf life of the Narcan, and does it have to stay so that it's no longer,
Yep,
or that it won't freeze and stuff?
So if it comes from the factory, it has a 24-month shelf life. By the time you get it from your distributor, it's about 18 months is what we get it at.
Okay.
It is both UV sensitive, so you can't put it together and put it on your dash out in the sun. That's not really an issue because you don't take it out of the box until you're ready to use it. But it is temperature sensitive. It really loves to be kind of room temperature, 58 to 83 degrees.
Okay.
So they're having policies and procedures in place on how they should carry it to make sure that it maintains that optimal temperature. And I think they carry bag valve masks, and just, the good ventilatory support also helps if their Narcan's not available.
Another question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Another point is, hopefully we never have to use all these.
Hopefully not.
No.
yeah.
The other point is, prior to expiration, if other departments need it, is there a way to make sure it just doesn't go?
If
Just get,
the sheriff's office notices that they have a bulk expiring, they can contact me. I can help work out the logistics of maybe pushing it more towards the metro
maybe
region.
other department would need, maybe they're running short, or they
Correct.
can exchange it with something that's longer shelf life or something. If they know they're gonna go through 10 doses in a week or a month or whatever that case may be, they can,
Yep.
so make sure it doesn't get wasted.
I have the relationships in place to be able to kind of navigate things around.
All right.
It's a little logistically challenging, a little time intensive, but it can be done.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate
Yes,
it.
thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Commissioners, I did verify it is $35.
All right, thank you, Bob. So, just a reminder, Commissioner Houston, for everybody that has to get their passports updated.
Yep. Hurry up.
Before April.
I just got mine done.
Please come in on Fridays.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's sarcasm.
Yes, I heard. That was
Mr. Matthijs. Keys?
Sounds so excited.
Well, you're gonna make us spend money. What do you expect?
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Hope everybody had a good President's Day weekend. Couple items in front of you today. One is to authorize proceeding with acceptance of a bid in contract development, and then authorizing myself and Lee Kelly to sign contracts for work related to the 2018 Collinwood Park improvements, the grading, all the site work. We received 15 bids, ranging anywhere from 600, just over 600,000 down to our low bid at 354,853. Gherkin Brothers, Inc. out of Richmond, Minnesota. Looking for approvals on that, and then authorizing a 10% contingency because, you know, there'll probably be a change order and why come back when we're within budget.
Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the bids for Gherkin Brothers. Did I get that correct? Gherkin Brothers, grading for site work for Collinwood with a 10% contingency.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Burrell. Is there any discussions?
So, Mr. Chair, Mark, so you went down and went through line by line, so they're real good on, clear on what our expectations are?
Yep, we went through everything, made sure bid bonds were there, went through every line, rechecked the math. They had a $4,000 issue with their math, but he assured me that he's a good dirt guy, just not a good numbers guy. Well, we liked your numbers, so.
Mr. Chair. All right.
Go ahead, Commissioner
Thank
Broderick.
you, Mr. Chair. Mark, how is this relate into an engineer's estimate if we had one of those?
Our engineer estimate was 615,000.
Okay. So well below that.
Yeah.
When we got common embankment for $1 a yard, that was amazing.
Okay. I just want to make that clear because they say, well,
Yeah.
what'd you think it was going to cost? Well,
Yeah.
and I know that with the engineering estimates, they're based on just recent past performance. So as the trend goes up, the price will go up. As the trend goes down, the price start going down. So this will make the trend next year a little bit lower.
Let's hope so.
So thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. Any further discussions?
No.
Now, isn't there a pickle called gherkin?
Is it?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's why it sounded familiar.
Different family, I think.
Okay. Excuse me. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Second part of the Collinwood project is construction of a comfort station, so restrooms and shower facilities in the new campground expansion. This comfort station will service the additional sites as well as the existing 10 sites, which are currently now just on a pit toilet. Through the Park Commission, we talked about two different styles of construction, one being an on-site, brick and mortar construction, the other being a modular type construction, which we did at Otsego Park this last fall. So the Park Commission had two visuals from last year. We did a brick and mortar one at Bertram, we did a modular one at Otsego. They preferred to go with the modular one. It does save you a little bit of money. And that bid came in, Huff Cut Concrete out of Wisconsin at $235,570,000. With that, our project is looking to be, from what we budgeted at, between the main parts, about $250,000 less than what between our engineers' estimates and what we thought was going to happen, so.
Yeah, good.
So we're sitting good on the budget.
That help.
And Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mark, yeah, I do recall this on the CIP, this was just north of $1 million we were anticipating.
1.1.
Yeah, 1.1. So this is really good news here. I mean, because at 1.1, you kind of scratch your head going, okay, kind of should, but they're pretty expensive. But when you're seeing these prices, actually, we've seized the moment of opportunity here to get this taken care of.
So, I mean, there are parts of this project that don't come. No, I have to do footings, I gotta get the permits, a rough-in plumbing, underground plumbing for the building, electrical, walkways and landscapes, a septic system that has to be bid out yet. So that's when you add those two numbers and you say 1.1, and Mark, you just said 250,000. Those other incidentals are yet to come.
And I can speak for the one over in Otsego Park that Huff Cut did, and it's very impressive. It looks like It almost looks like it was built in place until you get up a little closer, and then you can tell everything is made out of concrete. But it's gonna stand the test of time.
Good.
So when you put it, because you've been in both the Bertram and the Otsego, and you really, for dollars for cents, you felt pretty confident with the one in Otsego for what we spent.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's gonna be a little bit different. There are no showers in Otsego, but they've got some storage and stuff. But yes, it's a very strong product. And the way they design it, it's accessible for all service work in the back, just like down at Bertram. So, yeah, it comes pre-plumbed and everything. It's a neat little unit.
And Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
concern of, company out of Wisconsin, but since you've had experience with them before and you know what product they are, then I feel real comfortable. Because sometimes you get somebody far away, you kind of wonder what you're going to get or what they miss or whatever, but since you've had experience with them already, maybe they specialize in this type of setup and that's why other contractors from like the area aren't really geared towards this. I know a few concrete contractors, they're probably not geared for this type of thing.
No,
They're comparable to a Comtech out of Washington, Romtech out of Colorado.
Okay, so it's a
product.
specialized.
yeah, but it is a neat unit.
Well, those modular units are what, about 60% cheaper than actual construction?
Well, they're cheaper, but not quite that.
Because I mean, I'm just looking at, because I thought they were around like, well, based on Bertram, but that's based on
Bertram's a lot
prevailing wage.
larger.
That was based on prevailing wage because it was a grant project, so you really can't compare that. That's the reason I'm using the number of 60%, but.
And architectural designs is substantially, I mean, they look good, they're very functional, they're nice looking buildings, but Bertram's architectural design has a lot higher peak roof, you got your big 10 by 10, yeah, it's different.
See, I mean, yeah, I just think dollars and cents, but.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even the roof on the ones from Huffcut are also concrete. So
Oh, no kidding.
it's a solid,
Nice.
and actually, it's kind of a nice, as a storm shelter too.
Yep.
Yeah.
No
It
kidding.
isn't going anywhere.
Yep, don't have to use the second level, the basement level of the outhouse anymore.
Yeah, that'll be really nice. Yeah, the residents out at the park will appreciate that, I think.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the bid from Huffcott Concrete for the comfort station construction of $235,570 plus a 10% contingency.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Burrell. Is there any further discussions on it?
We do add that 10% contingency in there. It shouldn't happen. We spec'd it out, but until we get our final engineering documents from them, making sure they use this. The last one we did, they came back with a different flush valve than what we spec'd, so we had to change that out on them, like different stuff.
Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
The last item was to authorize proceeding with contract development and authorizing myself and Lee Kelly to sign contracts with engineering firm, landscape architect firm called Laux for all the engineering, planning, and construction specifications for the future Bertram Channel Lakes campground. We received 6 proposals. We had a small subcommittee of the Bertram Advisory Board review those proposals and grade them. Commissioner Vetch and Commissioner Dahlheiden were both on that committee. We had some great proposals, great people. Did a narrow list down to 3 and ended up with Laux coming in with the best value type process. Their contract price is going to be $110,500 and our budget was $112,000.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize proceeding with the contract development authorization of contract with Laux firm, or engineering, I don't know what you would call them.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Potter. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
ahead.
fellow commissioners, I will tell you, we were very thorough in this process. We had a lot of conversations in this one. But it was good. We wanted to make sure that the vision of what everybody was hoping to see, and we wanted to make sure that all directions were pointing to what we want to see down the road, since we're spending a lot of money in the future potentially on this project, so.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Potter.
Also, with Laux, I have a little experience with that company. They've always been above board, always did what they said they were going to do, and never had a problem with them following through on anything. So I'm pleased that you got a company that I recognize as being reputable that follows through on things is good. So I say happy with what this, and I would imagine that Commissioner Vetch did kind of beat the horses to death on all 6 proposals to make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck, because he's been hanging around Mark long enough, so that's just rubs off, I guess.
Very detailed. One nice thing, they did bring in Larry Wacker. If you're familiar with campground designs in the state of Minnesota, Larry Wacker names on a lot of campgrounds. You got a good one.
And they did have some unique ideas too.
They did.
Which was what we were kind of looking for. We had the concept plan, but they came up with some unique ideas that the state is doing at some, and the federals are doing at some of their campgrounds, which I thought was a great idea. Lynn, with some of this information too, they are going to do a
Market analysis.
Market analysis to get us, to make sure what we're doing is the best thing for the county.
Yeah, so we're not investing in a campground we don't need.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and we are working together with Monticello to try and figure out what things can be shared, such as septic systems with the ball field areas and the bathrooms there and stuff. So we're trying to get the best bang for the buck all the way around.
Yeah.
How soon before you have RV sites out there?
The goal is to get this done this summer and be able to apply for grants, depending on grant acceptance.
Next summer then, huh? Not this summer, but.
Depending on
2019?
grant acceptance.
Now, Charlie,
Our best case scenario is to start construction in 2020, but then that comes back to budgeting process here at the CIP level.
Yeah.
There will be a.
no, Charlie, Mark is getting something set up for a tent site. So if you want to do that route, you have to canoe to it too, though.
Mountain bike to it.
I did that in my younger days.
With that new knee, you can go.
All right.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Bob.
Robert, I know we have a public hearing at 9:30, but Lindsay pointed out to me that the budget reports are attachments to the agenda. Did you guys see that? I guess there was talk whether or not you wanted paper copies.
Yeah.
Oh, they're on the
They're on the electronics.
They are?
electronic.
I didn't
It
see
says
it.
PDF.
So she just wanted to know, do you want to go back to the paper copies, or do you want them?
No, I thought we were just gonna put one paper copy on the table, wasn't that the original plan? And then
Yeah.
the rest of it we'll just look at.
Yep.
Either we'll look at the one paper copy or we'll get it online.
Was there a paper copy back there?
I didn't see
I don't
it.
think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
that's-
I'll make sure there's a paper copy before
Yeah.
today for next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. We have a few minutes yet before we can start our public hearing.
The committee of the whole, or
Well, we
It's
got,
9:30.
9:29?
I got 9:29.
By the time Alicia gets up to the podium, it'll be 9:30.
Yeah, well, we got attorneys too that I think have to speak. No?
No.
You don't have to state certain things? Welcome, Alicia.
Did I walk slow enough, Mr. Chair?
Close enough.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chair, Board, how are you? I just want to open the floor for any comments on the amendment to the local water plan, including the executive summary and the new implementation program. So I don't have much else to say besides that.
Does anybody have any questions at all?
Mr. Chair, you need to open it up to the
Yep.
public for comment.
Yeah, I will, but I thought I would have a chance for anybody here to have any questions or talk. Okay, in that case, we'll open it up, public hearing for the public to ask any questions. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah. I guess, Mr. Chair, I was wondering how they do the projections from like 2002 to 2030 as far as population increases and decreases. I mean, if that's just sort of a given estimate based on what's been happening, the trending, or?
So I know this was a topic of discussion when this was brought to you guys originally on December 12th last year. So these numbers, most of them were put together by my predecessor, Joe Jacobs.
Okay.
Based on, and like the source that he cited, I was unable to find. It was a 2004 report by the State Demographer's Office, and it's not up on the internet anymore. And given that it's 14 years old, that's probably why. Yeah. So under guidance of our board conservationist, Steve Christopher, and with some new information that Commissioner Potter provided, I was able to update the 2020 through 2030 estimates.
Are we going to lose population in 2020 then?
That's what it says.
I used the numbers that Commissioner Potter and the auditor's office gave me is what I ended up putting in here.
That's what the state demographer came up with?
State demographers all over the board.
So.
You can see that obviously, well, I know
Then
for
we come
one,
back up again.
City of Albertville can only get 8,300 and some people
Right.
versus their landlocked. Otsego is not going to lose population down to 12,000. You know, there's a few different anomalies because the demographer's office has been all over the board on, it depends on which crowd they talk to.
Right.
So you take these with a grain of salt because not all these are, when they get out 2030, it's all speculation anyway.
Yeah, and
From 2016 to 2020, they're showing that we've lost, what, 6,000 people or so?
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, was the plague going to hit Otsego or something? That 5,000 people are just going to like vanish off. I'm like,
I think what it was is that we updated the 2016 numbers for sure, and then the 20.
Now I recall,
That was what
the
projection had
2016
been.
were kind of actual numbers, where the other ones
Right.
were all projections.
Yes.
Where you look at the anomaly from 2010 to 2016, they had all these projections all the way through, and obviously they didn't collect the fields. Because if you look at 109, it should have been like 112, but it's actually 132, and up to 126, 130, you know, their numbers were, the 2016 numbers were actual, not projected. These numbers have been projected since way back, and that's where the difference coming now that I'm looking at this thing is somebody down there didn't update their tables.
Mark, you have some big concerns on Otsego. I'd be keeping an eye out. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's, this is the only thing I have major concerns about.
And
It is
Dayton.
so inaccurate.
It is.
Well, we'll see what happens, but I was kind of curious.
Yeah, I understand the tables there by the request of the Board of Water and Soil Resources, and per their guidance, I updated the table to the best of my ability.
So is there a possibility to bring this up to the demographer's office that they, you know, maybe they should freshen up that table a little bit?
Yeah, or put it out again.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, put it out
It's
again.
just
'cause, you know,
not- it's
try to
just-
steer you to the best information that was out there, and obviously there was some errors down there, but like I say, the state demographer's office, I've listened to that presentation a few times, and they target the audience where they're at. Some of these numbers variate a little bit. It depends on target audience.
Yeah, not to the extent this one does, though. Bob, don't you get something from the state demographer every year?
Yeah, more in June, we received the estimates, same time the municipalities do, and then the municipalities can react to the state demographer's office. And then, if there are changes, we're notified, otherwise, we release the official results in July.
Could you go back and find the last year's, 2017's, and forward it to Alicia?
2016
numbers
numbers
were
were
Right.
forwarded to me for 2016.
Oh, and that's all, and that's all it is? So they just provide for each year, they don't provide for the future on those
Right,
demographers?
just for the current year.
Okay. Okay, for some reason I was thinking that it was.
Or the year.
But, yeah. You may want to send this down to the state demographer. Have them take a better look at it.
Mr. Chair, I do have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alicia, you probably know, the ones right here with the blue print.
Yeah.
How come not all the lakes are named on there? Is it just like certain lakes are named?
Right, so these are only those that have a TMDL active, and then,
A what active?
total maximum daily load assessment.
But doesn't Lake Ann, I thought they had a TMDL.
So that one's not listed because it's in the North Fork Crow, which will be covered under one watershed, one plan, and this is pertaining to the areas outside.
Okay, and then the other thing that I wanted to bring up, and French Lake, we had talked about maybe, because they have the area there where, like, we could do a project like at Mink with the limestone filter, and they do have land there that apparently that a person said they would be willing to let them use it for something like that. Is that, where is that at on your radar screen or whatever?
Procedure here.
That particular site has been ruled not viable because of the lack of fall. There's not enough elevation change to have the filter there.
But really, because that's like, it's gotta be 4 or 5 feet above the lake, above French Lake.
Well, it has to do with the elevation of Dan's Lake to then the elevation of the filter. Because it would go from Dan's Lake into the filter, and there's not enough elevation change from Dan's Lake to this. And I don't recall the exact borders, but I also believe French Lake is in the North Fork Crow.
That doesn't make sense, because you think if Dan Lake's raised up a little bit, it's gonna go in there.
And Lake, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking.
Yeah.
You're talking French Lake.
You're talking French Lake.
French Lake, yeah.
Right. Then there's also the issue of the road. There's Dan's Lake, a County Road 37.
Yep.
So the Dan's Lake can't go up too much higher, or you're going to endanger the road. And then the space after that, there's not enough fall there. Because we can't even find the culvert from Dan's Lake to French Lake. It's so low under the road that we don't know where it is because it's underwater.
But the water seems to be getting through it.
Yeah, the water's getting through, and we just don't know where the culvert actually is.
I'll have to have you bring me up, we'll do it another time, because
Okay.
I still think that's a viable spot, I don't have to.
Sure, but like I said, it wouldn't be in here necessarily, because if I recall my board is, I believe French Lake is in the North Fork Crow. So that would be in the one watershed, one plan.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Hey, Commissioner Burrell, I have looked at it, and it is, there's not enough fall to actually make it work. The only way it could be made to work is they would have to pump it through a system. So,
But the water's gonna come from Dan into there.
yeah,
It does now.
but the problem is there's not enough room, and there's a number of engineering issues there. So, but I'll let Alicia talk to you more
Okay.
about that in the future.
All right.
Sue, do we have a camera that can point out to the public area?
To the audience?
Yes, to the audience, just because this was a public hearing, and all we have are staff. Thanks, Bob, for looking a little better there. All we have out here is staff, so that's kind of why we brought it up here prematurely. But it is a public hearing, and by protocol, I should ask again if there's anybody that has any questions from the public. And again, there is nobody out here other than staff, and I don't think any of our attorneys have any statements to talk about or anything, so any concerns. So we'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Sue, for showing the public. Is there any more discussions from the board up here regarding this water plan?
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to approve the local comprehensive water management plan.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewsome. And I know it was a little unorthodox of a public hearing, but obviously it doesn't seem to be too much of a concern for the citizens. And if you have questions, all this information is available on the county website when it's up and running, because there's some issues.
It's back up and running now.
Okay, good. And all this information is available on the agenda items, so. Again, any further discussions?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Alicia, with the state demographer's office, if we get a hold of them and they can update this chart to actually reflect something that actually makes sense, can we bring this back and have that inserted in? We had the plan, but amend the plan to include a current chart that actually makes sense, because, you know, Joe Q. Public's going to look at this and go, what did you guys approve? You know?
Sure.
Just bring it to their attention, and hopefully that they are working on it.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, based on those numbers, we would be redistricting in the census, because you would lose too many people in that seat. Go, Mark.
In 2 years, we'll be redistricting.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense.
You'll lose your one voter in Dayton.
Actually, nobody's ever voted for me in Dayton.
Okay.
They've all voted for themselves.
Just gained 100 people. I know.
Well, he's losing 5,000.
All right, any other discussions? Hearing none, all those, and it's not a roll call vote, so all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same side. Motion carries unanimous. Wasn't a resolution, was it?
No.
I didn't see resolution, so.
I didn't either.
The resolution was passed in December 12th.
Well, I just want to make sure that an attorney didn't goof up or something.
The A-team's out there, Mark.
All right, items for consideration. Commissioner Potter, I know I gave you short notice, but you're very close to this discussion we had with the committee of the whole, so if you would please let us know how that all went.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee of the whole met on February 12, 2018. Members present were the commissioners, plus Lee Kelly, Altman, Hevela, Hoffman, Hole, Johnson, Kelly, Mattice, Meyer, Nelson, Tagaro, Faith, White, Virgin, and Bruce Kimmel from Ehlers. And the cusp of the meeting, or the strategic planning, budget, capital, finance and capital improvement, to try to, you know, and Commissioner Vetch brought this up. We have a lot of things on a wish list. Let's make sure that we have them funded, you know, which makes sense. You mean, you put everything on there, and if you got money, go through and prioritize the ones. If we get turned back dollars, if there's more money coming in, if we get, you know, you do the prioritize which ones go first and which ones don't, which actually makes sense for us to do. I am still of the firm belief that we're about halfway where we should be for capital improvement project budget amount for our size county and what's coming at us, but we can talk about that, continue. The first one was the spreadsheet, so for the attachments were the outstanding service debt for the Justice Center and a potential 2020 bond for new government center or whatever comes out. There was different scenarios, 20-year, 25-year, and looking different ways of doing this, and it's just basically shuffling dollars around to see where you want to do this. I mean, I think the cusp of this, it was good to see these and good to be reminded of these, where it's at and what kind of level of debt we're getting into and how that fits into our budget and impact to the taxpayers, because that's what we're worried about up here is, you know, what we're doing and how it impacts them. I think one of the things we talked about is the forecasting it in the 25-year bond, which I'm not a big fan of at all, because the cost of the interest it far exceeds the value, and our county's not in financial peril, so we don't need to do that. So I think that's one of the things we actually kind of did, correct me if I'm wrong, settle on that 20 years is a fine, 25 is just too much. But anyway, Auditor Treasurer Bob Heveler referenced the Wright County Budget and Forecasting Workshop spreadsheets. You know, we had those things out here, and every document does not account for every line item revenue change, or simply identifies assumptions, which that's what budgets are. There's a forecast of what may happen, and then at the end of the year you get the actuals, what really happened. And I was like saying, I've Bruce Kimmel coming explain. I think he does a very good job for Wright County explaining the dollars and where it's at for us. And Commissioner Vetch was showed a spreadsheet that shows 2% tax capacity growth, very conservative, and we already know that it was more than that for next year's budget. But it's good to be conservative on the revenue, you know, and overstate the expenses just to make sure you're staying within, because that's what gets a lot of municipalities in that trouble is they overstate revenue and understate expenses, and they pretty soon the wheels fall off the wagon. And we don't want to do that here. We're conservative, kind of just as soon keep it that way. You know, and Commissioner Vetch was concerned about the amount of projects on the horizon and no cohesive strategy regarding a plan moving forward. And I want to let him know, because he's a newer member on here, is that when the other four of us got on here, there was very little capital improvement program money put in there. Even though we knew projects were coming up, we didn't put anything in there for glazing windows, boilers, and what have you. And the pendulum swung quite a bit as you just put everything on there, and now we got to come back center, prioritize these strategies, which is it happens that way all the time. You know, going from nothing to everything, and now you got to bring it back center, which is a good way to do it. It's good to keep in the mind of how we need to do this, just because the impacts can be phenomenal, and only people say, okay, your taxes go up. What do they go up for? We need to. And it's our duty and our job to explain to the taxpayers if there's an increase, where it came from and why it's important to do. So that was, I like that going forward, that talk. We need to continue to have that talk all the time, and hopefully this sets up for next budget meeting that we can prioritize some of these. The CIP is not sustainable, which is the way it is, absolutely, because it was relying on turnback dollars and a lot of unforeseen revenues that you just got to have that dialed in a little bit better. And Hebel went on to explain that there's some assumptions built into a spreadsheet, you know, like we're getting class and comp study, we performed, you got cost of living, things like that. There's other things that come into play, the enterprise resource planning, things that a few years ago weren't on the table, they're there now that will have an impact. These are things that we need to make sure we're not forgetting. We can sit here and approve things, but let's make sure that there's funding available or a plan on how it's getting funded, because a lot of these things are really good ideas and we need to get them, but we need also know where they're coming in. People are referred to assumptions on pages of proposed 20-year bond. Justice Center 25, we talked about that a little bit. And go on to Commissioner Brawl stated that he did not want to remodel the government center or relocate health and human services. Just stay in the current building, you know, stall it off, you know, wait a few years, let some of them bonds season before we do anything. And it's another perspective of how to do things or how not to. And since it's all budget sensitive, everything's on the table, of every option's on the table, which way we go. I mean, it might not be popular with some people that just keep it the way it is for a while until we let things current. But, you know, it's on the table of how the scenarios and how they play out. And I had mentioned there's a cost of waiting, and we've seen that before. We saw that with the jail, $25 million turned into a $50 million building. The $20 million courts turned to a $50 million court. So it is a cost of waiting, and it depends on how you can make sure that we're not bleeding the taxpayers dry on any of these projects, but still moving forward. Because you can only kick the can down the road so long before you need to do something. And then Commissioner Burrell asked how soon the county could lock into the bond rates of the Justice Center. We just got word this morning that bond rates are starting to move up a little bit because of things going on. And what did he say? So somebody in June, was it June the number that he'd come back with somewhere? So. He had some. He has a scenario, and I got that on the wall of the office there. I believe it's in June that would be about the earliest we could lock in on that. So we went forward with that to get the timeline. We do have a timeline that everybody should have on there, and I make sure we post that on the website when we get to that. I think it's one that was brought on almost a year ago. Get that posted so people know the timeline of that. And Commissioner Vetch asked if there consents to 20-year bond period, 25, and I pushed like crazy just like for 20, because I did 25 year. I didn't want to pay an extra $7 million in interest. And we have our bond scenarios when we can refinance different things, and those are for future talks on how to do this, whether it's just saving up the money and paying it off. As a side note, the Sherburne County, for their $60 million Justice Center upgrade that they did. They'd put the money aside and basically had $20 million on the $60 million project. They had to set aside that money every year for that. It was like Commissioner Burrell mentioned a couple of years ago, why don't we just save some money for that? They knew this expansion was coming up I think it was 10 years ago. They knew it was coming up, so they started putting money aside for it. A hard call sometimes in discipline, but they did it that way, and that's, they want to minimize the impact to the taxpayers. One of the things we also had is with the courts is identify the cost of county paying which one's the responsibility of the 10th district, which can get real contentious there because now that we're moving forward, they can say that's our cost when it truly is their cost, and we need to get that just straightened out real quick here before we start getting too far into this, because I don't want to be paying for something that the 10th Judicial District should be paying for. I mean, and of course, if they can get out of it, they will. And at the going on up here, it's so it was like sold in the middle of May, the bonds, public hearing, May 3rd and June 8th, and be sold on that. Excuse me, May 8th. Could be at the end of May, but that's a tentative schedule. It's all subject to, a lot of other things coming in, but I think that's a good timeline for us to stay on. And Commissioner Vetch went on to say other commissioners interested in this budgeting CIP project versus using turnback dollars that may not be there. I, for one, I believe that we should do that and would prioritize them. And if there is turnback money, that's just a bonus on top of it. We could do more things, and if it doesn't come in, because we're tightening up all these budgets to have less turnback dollars to make it more accurate reflection of what we're spending. I think it's a correct way for us to go, and some of the things we've changed already are moving us that way. And I think we need to have further discussions on how to make these changes, but I don't think there have to be quite as intense on everything, just dialing in one little segment of that CIP as needed. And going on with different things, and we bounced all over the board on some of these things here. And Hevel had mentioned there's some significant maintenance items that need to be done at the government center. And one of the things I put in there is all our maintenance projects for this building government center here were based on what's the next 5 years. And I asked Alan Wilczek and Dave, and I apologize, I don't remember his last name for the maintenance supervisor. And I apologize, Dave. But I wanted a 10-year because, if we decide to stay here, we're going to have to know what the next 10 years worth of maintenance is going to be here. And they said it's going to dramatically increase that number that we were first told from 5 years, and which is in that. Recommendations were to bond for the Justice Center for 20-year. And in regard to bonding, and just get informational on regard the bonding of potential administration center, because again, as we get the space study dialed in here, which way the wind blows, we'll have to make that decision. And the capital improvement plan will be a budgeted item, which is good. That's a proper way for us to do this, to make sure we got stability in the future and not count on turnback dollars, which worked well for a while, but now we need to have that. And since we seem to have a consensus on doing budgets that way, make these budgets tight, make them so they're transparent, make them so we can all sit and explain to our constituents why we're doing this, which that's part of the job here. And there's a few other budget forecasting charts in here, which I imagine will be online.
Yes, they're all online currently.
Currently online, okay.
And they will stay online throughout the year.
So with that, Mr. Chair, and I know I went a little bit long-winded on that, long in the tooth, but I'll make a motion to approve the committee of the whole minutes and the recommendations.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any discussions regarding that? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Now, Charlie, I didn't remind you, but there's a standing that you will always do the Ways and Means Committee.
I'm ready.
You are?
Yeah.
Other than that, I was going to offer you an attorney to come up and
Go through
explain
it.
some of this legalese if you prefer.
If I struggle, he'll be running up.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chair, the Ways and Means Committee did meet on February 14th. And just a little background, we had a committee of the whole, was it last December, November? And where we actually were considering bringing the wetland enforcement back to the county. As you know, right now, we have delegated the Soil Water Conservation District to do that. And one of the board members from Soil Water came up with a novel idea, instead of doing that, to, when we have an appeal, that it would go to a joint board where two members, they would have the Soil Water Conservation Board and 2 members from the county board. So it'd be a 7-member board. And it was kind of the consensus. I think it was unanimous that we'd give it a try. And that's what the meeting was for on the 14th. We actually have a draft a joint powers agreement that would bring this into effect. We did have one change in the language on paragraph 5, and it was brought up by me. They said all of the meetings would be held at the Soil Water Conservation District, and their office is relatively small, and if we knew that it was going to be a large crowd there, we might consider relocating it. So it would just be, that was going to be the only change that we're recommending actually on the language as far as I know. Commissioner Houston said that these appeals are relatively rare, you know, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 a year or so. I think it's going to be a good thing. Now, before I get to the end here too, I do not want to approve the joint powers agreement today. We do have some insurance things that need to get worked out. So what I would like to approve today is just the recommendation to change the language and approval of the minutes. But am I correct on that? That's correct. Okay. And so anyway, it looks, that's really in just, I mean, if somebody wants to go through the detail of it, that's it. But we're going to have it will be a 7-member board, and we do have to have some special insurance. That's what Attorney Kreiser is going to be looking into. He has already looked into it. It's just we haven't finalized it yet, and he would like to have that in place before we actually approve the contract. So with that, I'll make the recommendation to approve the minutes with the recommended change in the language on item number 5 in paragraph 5.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussions? I do have one.
Sure.
The very last line on the front page doesn't make any sense to me. Kaiser said, and because this was an attorney saying it, that makes sense on why it doesn't make any sense.
The special meetings?
Well, the chair of the SWCD Wetland Appeal Board will be the SWCD Board Chair, and the county board can elect a chairperson for that particular meeting.
Where are you looking at?
On the bottom.
Very last page, very last line on the first page.
5, last
the minutes.
Oh, the minutes?
Yeah, on the front page. Right.
I didn't.
That's all I have.
Wait,
No, I guess I got the other
you
part.
should
Yep.
have just amended.
I didn't type up those minutes, so. The intent here is that, what I remember saying is that the SWCD board chair will be the chairperson for the Wetland Appeal Board. And that a vice chair will be elected by the body, by the Wetland Appeal Board.
All right, so that, in the minutes then, that should actually come out.
Yeah, we should probably.
Then the county board can elect a chairperson for that, you know, because it doesn't, it's contradictory.
Yeah, that part probably should come out, because Mark, if you go to, actually on the.
Yep, I've seen it on
Number
there.
5, it just says the chair of the Wright Soil Water Conservation shall preside over the meetings of the Wetland Appeal Board, which that's what we called it, the Wetland
And
Appeal
then,
Board.
Yeah.
but
I'd recommend just deleting that entire sentence.
Okay, all right.
That's-
Yeah, then it will match what's in the
Yeah.
joint powers amendment.
Okay.
So the second paragraph, although I would leave in there about Houston stating the meetings only occur once in a great while, twice a year or so. So that first sentence should go away.
So from Chrysler all the way to meeting, basically the whole first sentence, okay. Perfect.
That first sentence, yep.
Well, it's just, all you'd have to delete is just where it says, "And the county board shall elect a chairperson for that particular meeting." Just take that part out,
Whatever.
right?
Well, I mean, it
It's
actually,
doubling, it's saying it twice over.
Okay.
If you delete the entire sentence,
Yeah.
the
And
rest of
it
it's
is
still accurate.
it's stated elsewhere.
Yeah, so there are a lot of errors.
I
in that one
just, it was,
sentence.
that's a very confusing.
It is, yes.
sentence.
No, it is.
Yeah.
I didn't draft that, Mr. Chair.
Pardon?
An attorney did not draft that sentence.
Oh, okay.
We would have made
I
it much
might have
more
drafted it, but you said it, according to this.
According to that, I said it, but
You said it.
I categorically deny saying it that way.
Can you
And if I
believe
did
that?
say it that way, it was out of context.
An attorney saying he didn't say something. I find that so hard to
Told
believe.
counsel before saying that last remark.
I might go tweet that I didn't say it too.
If you did say it that way, you would need a dose of Narcan.
Yes.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
so,
So I'll make that motion with that change will be my motion to approve the minutes.
I will agree to that.
Okay.
And those two changes.
all right, so we have a change there, but Commissioner Burrell and Commissioner Hewsome is a first and a second. Is there any further discussions?
Yep.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. All right, item B, set committee of the whole meeting on 3/6 at 1 PM for class comp RFP interviews. This is, I take it, we've gotten everybody to agree to do it on the 6th.
As Mr. Chair, I believe we had a couple different dates, and Coordinator Kelly was going to verify that everybody could
Make it on one day.
Yep.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set a committee of the whole meeting for March 6th, 2018 at 1 PM for the class comp RFP interviews.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any other discussions?
Just that this will probably be at least a couple hours.
Yeah,
I think if you go
I
40
would
minutes.
say probably 3 hours for sure.
3 hours, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm okay with that.
Okay, is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, board meetings in May and July. There are 5 Tuesdays in both months. What does the board would like to do with those extra Tuesdays?
Mr. Chair, if nobody has any other preference, May 22nd would be okay if we deleted that one.
Mr. Chair,
ahead.
the reminder for that was because I will be in DC on the 22nd, so I won't be here.
Okay. Good
That's
one.
fine,
way,
if
which
you-
one you
yeah,
do.
if it works better.
You're
for
okay
two
with that
people.
one then?
Yeah.
You know what? I could not figure this out. I have written in here Mike Gunn, and I'm like, Mike Young, Mike, okay. I should have said Potter Gunn. Okay, so you want just one motion, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, so
July.
if we can do May 22nd, that would work good for me and for Mike, so.
All right.
And then we go to July. Don't we usually just do the one right after the 4th
Or the one before the 4th, you mean?
or before the 4th, yeah?
I mean, because this one, it makes sense just to cancel the 3rd.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
prefer to cancel
That's
the
fine.
3rd.
And Mr. Chair, the idea of that one, because on the 10th, we have leadership at 10:30, which,
Right.
and HHS the next week, and that's a,
So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion then that we cancel the May 22nd meeting and the July 3rd meeting for 2018.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Is there any further discussions?
Mr. Chair, just a note that we will still have our committee probably day on the 23rd, so, of May. But,
Yeah,
We can deal with that at a different time if
so
there's enough
we'll
of us
deal with that
want.
if we, yeah,
Yeah.
if we want to reset that or whatever.
Yeah, since Commissioner Potter, you won't be around either on the 23rd, right?
no, that, pretty much that whole week I'll be gone.
Okay. Admin, do you have any concerns with those particular dates?
No, I don't see any conflicts on calendars here.
Okay. So, any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Advisory Committee, Advisory Board updates. Commissioner Hewsome. We'll start with you.
All right.
I think we started with Commissioner Burrell last week.
This was more of a invitation to people, but on March 23rd marks the 150th anniversary of when the county seat was moved from Monticello to Buffalo. And so we're going to have a kind of a cake reception out at the History Center and kind of gather some information prior to that. And Miriam from the Journal Press is going to be doing some articles, and it was, I think, a pretty controversial time. It was, Monticello had pretty much easily gained the county seat, but one thing, for some reason, they didn't think it was important to have one building. So the different county offices were located around Monticello, and there became more of a cry for a central location and also to get it into one building. So this Jackson Taylor, he was a commissioner or citizen, and he actually went around, pretty much visited every citizen in the county to try to get the support. And he and I think 8 others got together and they gave a bond so that the county could build this 2-story building and have all the departments in that building, and also live or to do business there 5 years rent free. So that was pretty appealing, but it was still, I mean, it was very controversial. So they built a 24 by 36 building, and they were putting in a vault on the east side, and it collapsed, and so Mr. Gartner had a temporary burial. That happened. But so anyway, the new courthouse was willingly accepted by the Board of County Commissioners and became operation in 1868. So anyway, more to come on that, but just to let people know that they were having a little reception and to watch for articles in the paper.
Let me get in, what day was that?
March 23rd.
March 23rd.
At the History Center.
Yes.
Where you can learn more about history.
And I felt really bad when I looked at my calendar and I saw I was going to be at a conference and I will have to miss it, so I felt really so bad about that. Yes.
Mr. Chair, maybe Commissioner Houston could put that in her next book, in the murder mystery, on spin a story on how it moved from Monticello to Buffalo and somebody mysteriously disappeared on that day.
Is this going to be a cold case?
Yeah, it could be that, yeah.
Alrighty. Actually, I don't think I have anything. Other than...
It'd be great to have the rest of you commissioners there. And
other than last week, we did go through, at the IT meeting, some discussions about the ERP system. And I just got an email this morning saying that they've been delivered and they're going to be on the intranet sometime today, hopefully. And he will be sending an email to Derek and myself, but if anybody's interested in looking at those two deliverables from Infotech regarding the ERP, let me know and I'll be happy to send you the link.
And myself, last week on Tuesday, after our board meeting that evening, the Highway 25 Coalition had their open house. Very, very well attended from everywhere from Becker, Big Lake, Elk River, Monticello. Greatly attended. I would say, wouldn't you say, probably over a couple hundred people are through there through the hours.
Neighborhood,
yeah,
real easy.
So a lot of good comments. I'm looking forward to Thursday this week to have some, as a group, collective discussion. I'm gonna attend that one with Potter, just to hear kind of the collective discussion on what the common cards had to say, and moving forward with that process.
Was MnDOT there?
Yes.
Yep.
They were.
Claudia Dumont was the representative for MnDOT. She's our area planner.
Good.
And she needs to be, if they're not at the front, if they're not at the table, they're not there, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And they've been on board from day one on this, so that's a positive thing for us.
Yeah, well, I think I heard you say earlier, 25 through Monticello is a difficult road, especially on the weekends.
It's busy.
I feel sorry for those people that live there
It's
trying to
busy.
get across.
It's really busy.
I think MnDOT got loud and clear that, wow, people are really interested on this topic and concerned about it. So that was a huge feather in our hat for moving forward with this issue.
And the thing is, it's not just Monticello, it's regional.
Well-
Both sides, all the way to St. Cloud, there were people interested.
Yes.
You know, if I'm over here, how do I get over there? Like I say, it was impressive with the crowd.
Good.
'Cause usually you get, 6, 8, 10 people, but
Right.
this was intense.
About how many people? I mean,
Close to 200. It was right in that neighborhood. There was a lot of people
Really?
there.
Oh.
They were, and a lot were there early, and then it filtered, and the crowd stayed consistent, but it just, few people mixed in and out.
that's an amazing number.
And the amount of scenarios, options in there, give everybody they want, because some people get, well, why do you have one going through downtown? Well, because it's required by law that we take every potential option, even the ones that we know are just plain out dumb and not gonna happen. You still gotta put them out there just so,
Right now,
We already have that, we already have that option. It doesn't work. But you're right, they need to look at every option.
Exactly, but it was good, so more to come on that as we kind of flush out our next coalition meeting and finding out how that plays out. Other than that, I had Safe Schools in Monticello. Once again, the same thing that all of you hear in all of your meetings. Lots of sexting stuff issues and a lot of mental health issues. That's the theme of schools around the area. So the other item, or Thursday, I was hoping to make it a Trailblazer meeting. I came down with that wonderful illness that was been going around. So luckily, Commissioner Potter stepped in and got to enjoy that meeting and fill in for me. And luckily, he didn't even have to drive to Glencoe. It was Buffalo's circuit this time. So what a nice gentleman he was to fill in for me on that. He'll give you maybe a synopsis, but I think it was probably not much to report. But I'll let you go for that, Michael.
Just one moment. Adam, did you have something? Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I apologize for the interruption. I had reviewed my agenda item that I had added for the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, and I had put the improper contract term on the item. The dollar value is still the same, but that's a 3-year contract. I wanted to clarify. That's a 36-month enterprise agreement. Our last one was 6 years. This time we shortened it down to 3.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And last week, Tuesday was extension. I'll let Charlie talk about that one because he's interesting.
That's all I have.
Well, no, but it's, but it's interesting.
Then go ahead and talk about it.
But it was good talk, good everything, and it's things moving forward. Thing again, like Commissioner Vetch had mentioned, I sat in for the Trailblazer meeting for him, and we'd gone through a couple things prior to that he wanted to go on through the agenda here, and I did tell Gary Ludwig that I do want to be copied on the minutes because I don't like coming in cold to a meeting without being able to read things before. It makes it tough to follow along. If you read a couple times, it's easier to follow along. So all the members are there. The alternates, I was an alternate for Derek, and there was Rich was an alternate for Mr. Doug Kruger. So from McLeod County, so there's going on what they ended up talking about is the review of the Smart Right program, which is one that's got some issues in it that they have to deal with. The old Sibley McLeod County, they had the service the way it was going on. McLeod County, I don't know how it happened, but they were subsidizing the Smart Rides for their Health and Human Service. So it's kind of like, okay, how is this going on? So this is something now we're here, there was a, projected there was a shortfall of $18,000 in revenue, so we need to correct that. I mean, so that, this is, even though it's not major in the budget, it's still, if you're gonna offer it for one, you offer it for all or nothing.
And that's the thing, is that they have been offering the Smart Ride in Wright County, only in McLeod and...
Granted,
Well, that's not true. Smart Ride is system-wide, but I would kind of tell you the real skinny on this is prior to us coming on board with this, coming on board with Trailblazer, it was already proved that McLeod County, and only McLeod County, can purchase rides at a reduced rate through Smart Ride. The standard rate for Smart Ride is $2.50 a mile. Well, McLeod County wants to use their Health and Human Services, but MA only reimburses at $1.30 a ride.
Oh.
So basically, the board, Sibley County, and WCAT agreed to give McLeod County that discount and sell Smart Ride at $1.30, the reimbursable rate through MA.
A mile.
Yep, a mile. And so then Sibley, McLeod, and now Wright County are divvying up that discount because that contract is only good for McLeod County Health and Human Services. I've talked with Wright County Health and Human Services. We are not in the position to want to enter into that because we want an organization that will do direct billing to MA.
Right.
But right now, McLeod County does their own billing directly to MA.
They do?
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you for explaining that in detail, because coming in on the end, you're kind of reading through this going, holy Hannah, what's going on here? So that was a good explanation on that one.
But let me tell you, at the end of the day, the amount of miles, there was only 700, I think it was like 700 rides that were within to that. No, it was less than that. It was, in the last 3 months, there was only 30-some rides that actually used that. It was 700 total Smart Rides, but there were MA ones were like 30, and the dollar amount was in the hundreds of dollars. So I think it was like $900. You divide it out 3 ways, it was like $300.
Okay. Yeah, that's not scary.
It's not scary, no. It's more the potential of
It could be.
It could be.
Yes.
It could be. Yeah.
So I don't want to give alarms like we're entered into something that we're getting.
No, it's on the table to talk about, because if Wright County was to get in as Sibley and McLeod, we'd scream bloody murder, because we're already 45% of that system. We start creeping up to 65%. They're not going to want it. Their people down there are not going to want to subsidize Wright County rides. So it's a good discussion. It's a good discussion to have and figure out how do we come up with this.
We shouldn't be subsidizing their rides, and they shouldn't be subsidizing ours. That's something we agreed to.
So that's like say it, and so that was one item that we talked about, but it was tabled till next month. So to make sure that instead of 2 alternates being there, have the main players be there on this one. And the next part is the use of Smart Ride, the reoccurring service, because Sibley County wants service to New Ulm, and Buffalo wants us to take over Buffalo Allied Transit. Which both. There's discussion that needs to be done on all sides and what the true cost of this is to the system. I mean, and we didn't get into too much, but Sibley County, the dumb thing is you get a ride to New Ulm when Lafayette's just over the border in Sibley County, where you could get that other system there. Why don't you just go across the border to Lafayette? It'd be a lot cheaper. But again, these are old ways of doing things that now have to be modernized, and it's best to be discussed with the primary players there that have been at the table for this discussion all the way through it. And so these both were tabled for next month, so hopefully you're not.
I appreciate you doing that, because there's a lot of background information.
Those are the concerns that Commissioner Vetch had, and I want to make sure, and they agreed, because there was 2 alternates there, and this is just too important of issue to have us rookies in there, as cheap substitutes for the real thing there. They went through the review of the volunteer driver program. Everybody's having a problem getting volunteer drivers. The future plans of the program, possible discussion on a volunteer driver coordinator position, and that will come up again with you. It wasn't tabled, there's discussion. It's an ongoing discussion thing. At some point in time, they'll figure out which way the wind blows on that one. And they're doing bylaws updates that you're working on. And the functional industries, they explain that a little bit. That's a 5310 program. It's a modification of 5308, 5308. Modification was for seniors and disabled, a little different thing, and that's that in itself you could write a book on how that happened. And I'm sure Commissioner Vetch has been well versed on that, but it was interesting to get that that perspective, our new, the new MnDOT person is Jeff Herfindahl retired.
Yep.
And John Grotus
Yep.
is the new one. He wasn't there. I was hoping to meet that person, you know, because I knew Bev was retiring. I always like to see those players, so when I see them elsewhere, you keep making the connections so they keep in the frontal lobe of what's going on in Wright County. And that's the other thing that came up there is I made a note to have Derek call the Central Minnesota Council on Aging about volunteer drivers, because there was some talk and aspect on how these all mesh together, you know, and instead of just, don't know if I put a note here to have you get a hold of them, say volunteer driver program, because I'm sure they have the same issues, and if there's overlap, maybe there's a way to coordinate.
You don't want to take over the Central Minnesota Council on Aging too. You could meet up in St. Cloud.
Wright County Community
I'd be okay with that.
It doesn't bother me any.
Wright County Community Action is doing,
they're doing some work
the
with
aging, and that is one of the things they're working on. And they have been working with Jamie out at HHS to make sure that they aren't duplicating and some of the other groups that are out. So they're trying to figure out a way to do it as a group as a whole, so that there isn't duplication going on.
Yeah,
and it's because of the issues with volunteer drivers.
Well, and I will give you the skinny on this, and this has kind of been an ongoing discussion piece, is where the future of volunteer drivers are with where they fit within the Trailblazer structure, whether it's really something that we should be involved in. It's more of a Wright County Community Action or another entity to do this, because right now the way it's set up is our volunteer drivers, all we can do for them is reimburse them. They can't use any of our equipment to pick up people. It's a way for us to help people facilitate rides outside of our standard system.
That's a good
It's a
thing,
good thing, but the problem with it is it puts them under our insurance umbrella, and we have had an accident where a volunteer driver had a serious accident, and we've had some extreme potential liability involved with that. And the question is it better set up as a nonprofit to be facilitating these rides outside of it, underneath us as a government entity to be doing it? Because our liability is a lot greater than that of a nonprofit. So that's where we're having these discussions as to really, does this, you know, fit our needs? So
good to really vet the whole thing out.
But we've always done it that way.
That's right. One of the buffaloes jumping off the cliff here. No, and it's good to actually sit in once in a while to see exactly how intense that is. It's a problem across the whole state, and it's, you know, I'm glad he's sitting on that. I've got enough other things going on to try to dig into everything there. But the next item was the Met Council I sat in for. Commissioner Dryden offered to set in for him, you know, so he could free up some schedule.
And I appreciate it.
You know, because sometimes you need a break. I was already geared up that day already anyway.
Yeah, and he brought up a good point about
every chance I get to be in the face of Met Council, I kind of like to let them know where we stand. We let them know on certain terms that, you know, you stay on that side of the river, we're getting along just fine. You know, and I like doing that. Just to make sure they understand. And they were surprised. A few of them I remembered their names, because it's like, you know, I've been to your meetings. You know, like say, you just want to be mindful, because they're there. I don't want them to use some federal document to try to do a, you know, takeover of us.
Yeah.
And be aware of what's going on. We did go through the memo of understanding just to freshen up. It wasn't nothing changed in this. It was just to refresh everybody to look at it again and see what's it. They are doing a household travel survey that comes out, and we're one of the collar counties is what they're mostly focusing on here. For every 10 years they were doing it. Now they're going to do it every 2, because things have been changing quicker than in 10 years. I mean, they're finding out that it's not
accurate.
It's not, well, that true, that too. Well, so and their update on their policy plan, what they did announce is that same day, hot off the press, was that the feds denied them money for both light rail projects and both bus rapid transit. I was expecting them to say something, but they didn't volunteer it. But that's just fine. Also, when we did the kind of the 7W, the round robin a little bit, Sherburne County talked about updating their plan, their transportation plan, which is 2007 vintage, and they're already started theirs. And we talked about Wright County updating ours, is starting March and different things. Steve Bott from St. Michael and Kevin Castle, the administrator and the mayor, were there with me on that. So it's kind of good to be at these, have enough representation sitting at these meetings there. Thing we got into was the more of the what's coming at us, and we also reminded about the bike. They touched on the bike and trail program a little bit, and they missed a couple of things in here that I brought their awareness about the bicycle plan, and the one backbone from Carver County up to Otsego wasn't in there. They say sometimes when it's concept, it doesn't get in here, but it's already been discussed. We're aware of it, but it's not in the plan as of yet because of A, B, or C. But so they're aware of some of the things coming up. So we just want to make sure that in the regional active living, how our trails connect with the rest of the region, make them aware of that. So I think they're going to get a hold of Stearns County and them and see how all our trails match up all the way through, because they're, I don't want to say they're mandated, but they're kind of being directed by the legislature to make sure that when you're putting your bike plan in, it matches everybody else's, so we don't have what we refer to as the St. Paul plan. No streets match up. You know? So it was an interesting conversation. I mean, we were there for quite a bit, but like I say, the crust of it is we had our annual meeting. They are updated with Wright County, and I don't see any problem here. I just want to make sure that we are mindful that the next census comes around. I don't want the federal government all of a sudden encompassing like Monticello, Buffalo, Delano, and at some point in time, I mean, not that I don't trust them, but I trust them only a little bit, is I don't want all of a sudden a big takeover of Wright County because of the feds said we have to do this. I want to make sure memo understanding stays strong all the way through. Mayor Castle made it real clear. I mean, besides at the beginning I made it clear, but he in Wright County, no, Met Council is a swear word. The other thing I talked to him about is because I knew this was, I at this point with Peter McLaughlin from Hennepin County and Jim McDonough from Ramsey County, they were concerned when we joined MRC. And I know darn well Met Council is aware of this because the grumblings over there on, and I let them know that us being a collar county, we're a member of that, because if we're at the table, we can influence policy a little bit. I says, because you got the metro, you got the outstate, and you got the collar counties, and we're the kind of the forgotten ring here. And we need to be at the table with all these things too, so we have at least a awareness and try to influence policy if we can. So that was, it was a good meeting, productive. I'll leave that out for if you want to read that there. Other thing is that got through the Sheriff's Department, their Citizens Law Academy. I don't know if we talked about that already.
Yeah, are you gonna go?
I would like to, but the May 22nd, I'll be in DC, so I won't be able to go on that. But it starts April 24th. Class held from 6:30 to 9 p.m. at the Law Enforcement Center, and it just, I don't know who's gone through. You went through that last year?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a neat thing to get a more perspective on what they do and their processes and that. And I was hoping to do it this year because after his talk last year, I mean, it's like, I can't have him do something I haven't done.
Right.
But the dates are just not matching up with mine. But again, I think this will be on the website.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. So this is just kind of a neat thing for people to get perspective of what's going on there. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Do they get to shoot guns?
Yeah, you get to shoot, yeah.
Real guns?
Real guns. You got in the range, yeah, you get to, anybody that wanted to shoot the rifles could, you got to shoot the handguns, yeah. We ran scenarios with pellet guns, and...
Well, I know they have that software program.
Yep, and, I tell you, we got to literally drive the squads. I mean,
I know.
You get to do everything.
Cool. Like I said, it's really fun to drive a squad car. I think
it's really comprehensive.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on in the squad car, but it's
especially in Waverly following Charlie. Flip the lights on.
Commissioner Burrell. Okay, you don't have anything? All right, no.
Mr. Chair, the Extension Committee that Commissioner Potter talked about last week, we did have a couple things. We actually have a new Regional Director, Sarah Chur, is still being with the Extension. I'm not sure what her new job is going to be.
She's taking a different area.
Right.
A different
yeah,
area, okay.
yeah.
And Mike, I can't for the life of me remember her name, but she's very well connected within the University of Minnesota system. She actually is a graduate of the U of M. So she has and she's done a lot of different work down there. So I think it's going to work out real well for our region anyway. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and Commissioner Potter and I are on a committee that consists of the Extension, some of the 4-H people, and the County Fair Board, and we're looking at a new food stand building at the fair. And Mike had to leave early, but we had a meeting after the Extension meeting, kind of, and just a lot of things to put together. It's in the infancy stage right now as far as what type of a building do we want it to be, you know, enclosed? Do we want it to have, I said if we had a lean-to on where at least we could have picnic tables outside to stay out of the rain. Because a lot of people like to eat outside. So I just want to put it on the radar screen of the board. It's something that we're looking at, and then how the funding mechanism, you know, what we're going to do and the costs and things. So, but we'll be bringing it back. I'll keep you updated as we come up with ideas and whatever.
One of the other interesting things with that food stand, if it's operating more than 7 days in a calendar year, you don't have a temporary food stand. You've got a whole litany of other things. So that brings in, because if we're going to build a building that's going to be used for more than 5 days a year.
Yeah.
You know, because if we're going to build one, maybe the SNAP education can be down there because that's concentrated, or other entities.
There's a lot of things. That was one of the things that we want to make it so it could be leased out or rented out to be used, because it would be a great thing for the FFA alumni to have their annual banquet or whatever, you know, if we had you know, enough seating. And those are the things that we're trying to figure out what we really want the building to do. And then we do have getting some cost estimates from, and the way it sounded, kind of, it would be best to do kind of a design build. And we have, one of the builders is going to kind of give us some free estimates. That's done a lot of work with the county already. So
Commissioner Burrell's already toured the Meeker County. They put a new food stand there recently.
Yeah.
So they have costs and everything. You can design. Yep. We can see what do they do, how did it work out for them. Yep. And again, like we do, what would you do different if you had to do it over again? What would you change?
Yep.
Does Meeker County use theirs year round?
No, theirs is not enclosed really. It's not air conditioned or anything like that. So it's just, you know. We're looking at everything, I guess, right now.
Now, from my understanding, the existing kitchen isn't all that old, because Commissioner Potter was there when he was at 4-H,
Yeah.
right?
It was old when I was serving food on.
I want to say they said something about 70-some years old, but
I'm wondering if that's where they housed the prisoners of war, the German prisoners of war in World War II.
They could have.
I don't know which building they used, but that's where they were housed.
It was around.
Fairgrounds.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Those two
Another one of
summers.
those history tidbits.
Okay, that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, we do have an item that you're going to have to pull previous, if we can speak to that before you adjourn.
Yeah.
All right. You're going to have to pull item F from the consent agenda. So I would suggest that there's a motion that is made to reconsider that item separately as previously approved from the consent agenda.
Okay.
And then we'll have to take a separate motion to correct what's actually being authorized.
Okay.
Motion by Burrell, second by Hewsome on that consent, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we to reconsider the passage of the consent agenda and remove item F for further consideration.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Hewsome to reconsideration item F under consent agenda and pull it and have a separate vote on it. Is there any discussion on it? Yes.
Mr. Chair, just to refresh the board, is it possible to have Mr. Tagaro come up and explain this again, so we'll make sure it's clear?
Let's get this part done.
Get on this vote though, yeah.
All right. No more further discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Now Adam can explain.
Okay, so we'll have to redo this as a
Separate item.
separate item.
Yep.
Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The dates that were on the original agenda item that I submitted were for 1 year, which is off of the quote that I had. That's basically the first year of licensing. The EA agreement itself is a 36-month agreement with Microsoft to provide all of the services. I wanted to make sure that was clarified with the board.
Is it still 205 a year?
Correct.
Okay, but we're contracting for 3 years, so the total contract's like 615.
Correct.
Okay.
So that'll go till 2021 or
21?
2021?
Correct.
And Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the authorized signatures for a contract renewal with Microsoft EA for March through February of 2021.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewson. Is there any other discussions regarding this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Adam. Don't let it happen again. Nothing coming before the board. We are adjourned at 10:36.
Right.